summary. The story which we are going to read now is actually being narrated to Ganesh by a young man named Mahendra. So Mahendra actually narrates the story to Ganesh. Now, who was Mahendra? Mahendra was a bachelor who was also a junior supervisor in a construction firm. So he was in construction firms, his job was to supervise what all was going on the construction site, and as construction sites were different all the time, so he has to move from place to place. So Mahendra is supposed to move from one place to another, and he was supposed to even live for some time in some different part of the states, or maybe different states also, in order for the work purpose. Now, as he used to travel, so he used to always travel with one person, that was his cook. So his cook, whose name was ISHWARAN, would always move along with him. So ISHWARAN was not just his cook, but also a very good storyteller, and he was also somebody who was perfect in everything. So ISHWARAN had these all qualities. So beside this, ISHWARAN also used to read popular Tamil thrilling stories. So ISHWARAN used to read those popular Tamil thrilling stories and would actually make up a story and show to people that this story is actually real. So this is what ISHWARAN used to do. Now ISHWARAN, who was so good at it, his description was also so good, and how it was influenced? It was obviously influenced by Tamil authors, and he narrated endless stories to Mahendra. So every morning this was routine that Mahendra would get up, and ISHWARAN in the meanwhile would prepare food for him and would serve him food, the breakfast on his table, and later on he would do all the household works like washing the dishes, washing the clothes and cleaning of the area. He would do all the things. When Mahendra would return, he would again serve him the food and would sit and narrate him the stories. Now this is what was the casual routine of these two people. Now while ISHWARAN would narrate stories to Mahendra, Mahendra would get so lost in the stories, because the way ISHWARAN narrated the story was completely out of the world. He would use so many things, so many elements. He would use his body gestures also to narrate the story and make him believe that this is actually a true story. Now this might have also happened with you people, that maybe one of your friends is so good at narrating story, and especially horror story. They tell you some sort of horror story, and that horror story stays in your mind and heart, and you're very afraid afterwards of maybe ghost or maybe anything it could be. You are literally so afraid that all the time you are thinking of all these things only. Especially while sleeping, you are always like, if you have seen any horror movie for an example, or maybe if you have come in contact with any horror story, you get so afraid while going to bed that either you're taking name of God or you're looking around कि यहाँ पर कोई है तो नहीं है. It happens, I think, with most of us, right? We get so afraid even after watching horror movies. The same thing happened with Mahendra. So there are two stories which are being mentioned in this prose, where ISHWARAN is telling two stories to him. Now the first story once he narrated was a tale of a tusker. Tusker is an elephant. So ISHWARAN says that in his village there were very lot of elephants which were kept there, because his village was near the forest, and elephants used to carry the logs, the wooden logs, and that's why they had lot of tuskers over there. Now elephants, sometimes it even happens that elephants would go so mad and they would just keep on destroying everything and would just run here and there. So one day what happened, one elephant, he came out of the forest, out of the area where they were supposed to be. So he came out and he became extremely mad at something. Mad here means extremely angry at something. So as the elephant was so angry, he started destroying everything that came on his way. Anything that came on his way, elephant started destroying it. And elephant has also entered the village now, and was actually, people were actually afraid of him. Now what happened, he says, ISHWARAN says that that he was a school going kid, and he was in some class, and he was actually seeing everything while he was sitting in the class. In his class everything was going, and students were still in the school, and he could see it from his class how the elephant was walking with lot of anger. Now, to show the anger to Mahendra, that how angry this elephant was, Ishwaran was so smart, he got up down while narrating the story. He was sitting and he just got up and started walking very angry, like actually the elephant was walking. Now, why Ishwaran did this? To give a very realistic effect to the Mahendra, that actually this is something that happens. Now Mahendra was also so lost in the story. Then Ishwaran said that I could not tolerate, Ishwaran, who was sitting in the class as a kid, he could not tolerate it, and he took a sugar cane stick from teacher and then went near the elephant. So we can see that a small kid is fighting with a huge elephant, which was not actually possible, but Ishwaran, he was such a good storyteller that he made it sound true. Now he said that with that sugar cane I started fighting with the elephant and I hit him on his toe, and then the elephant collapsed. So a huge elephant collapsed, he broke down and he sat down with the help of what? With the help of small cane. Though Mahendra did not believe, Mahendra, we don't know whether he believed it or not, but he was very interested in the story. As he has to take a few minutes break, so he asked Ishwaran to stop it, as he'll be just coming back, doing maybe washing his hands. He'll come back within some seconds. Now what happened? We see that after he came back, Mahendra came back within few seconds. Ishwaran, he refused to tell the full story later on what happened, in order to have to create the suspense in Mahendra's mind. So Ishwaran was so smart, he knew where to create this climax, where to create the suspense, and how to end the story, and on what not to end the story. And he later on just said that elephant was taken to veterinary doctor, and then nothing much happened. Now we see in the story, Ishwaran himself is showing himself as a hero, and that's why he's catching the interest of the people also. So another day he told another story that was linked to full moon and full moon night. So he said that first of all he said to Mahendra that the place where his factory is a very shady place, because he has heard that over there in the place where the construction of factory is going on, there earlier it was place where dead people were actually buried. So that's why he said that he has also seen skull of a dead person over there. So then and Ishwaran also says that it is a true incident where it was a full moon night, and he saw a female ghost holding a fetus, which he said was true. So he said that the most scary part is not the skull which I have seen, but there is also one thing. I've seen a picture, I've seen an image of a girl holding a fetus. Fetus is a baby which is still in the womb. So she's holding that, and she was looking very scary. Now what Ishwaran is trying to do? Ishwaran is trying to create fear in the mind of Mahendra. Now why? We don't know why. Maybe because it was his art. He loved doing it. He loved creating a lot of suspense in people's mind. Now let's see whether Mahendra would believe it or not. Now we see the Mahendra, who actually does not believe in ghosts and any supernatural power. He says that he calls his story baseless and disapproved it to be true. He said that the story cannot be true. It is such a baseless story, and he believes that the story cannot be true. Now what happened few days later, but though Mahendra has completely forgotten about the story, and he says to Ishwaran that the story is completely nonsense, don't tell me such kind of stories, and he actually scolds Ishwaran for telling this kind of story. Next day he thought that Ishwaran would be very scared, and he was not sure how Ishwaran would react because of the previous day's scolding. But next day Ishwaran was again back to normal. He was laughing, he was narrating the story, he was smiling, and everything was normal. But what happened, though Mahendra thought the story was baseless, but in his heart and mind somewhere the story was still running. As the story was still running in his mind, so after a few days, when it was a full moon night, Mahendra heard some noise during the night time. So as he heard some noise during the night time, he went close to his window to see what exactly it was. To his surprise, when he went near the window, he saw some cloudy figure. There was some cloudy figure who was clutching a bundle near his window. So bundle was what? It was actually a fetus. And what was the cloudy figure? It was actually a woman who was carrying a fetus in her hands. Now see, Now, though Mahendra did not believe the story to be true and completely says it baseless, but the fear was still somewhere built inside him. And it was this fear which made him see all these cloudy things. Though there is nothing like ghost which actually exists, but why he saw it? Because of something that was going on in his mind, the fear which was going on in his mind. Now, this is what happens when most of the times we also hear some voices and we imagine some things to be true, which is not, because it's just our mind which is playing with us. Now, Mahendra could not sleep that night. So, whole night he was awake, he could not sleep. And next day, to his surprise, when he saw Ishwaran, Ishwaran smiled at him and asked about the sound and the woman ghost. Now, Ishwaran said that, and what about the sound which you heard last night? And what about the women ghost which you saw? Now, at last, Mahendra, who actually had an encounter with the ghost, he was so developed this fear a lot that he decided to leave the place the very next day. He decided that he would not stay over here and decided to leave the place. So this was end of the story.